everybody, welcome back. Today is NFC East. This one's getting recorded and uploaded a little later than it typically does, weekly. They'll typically come out on Thursday. This one, I believe, is just pretty much going to edit it as soon as possible and probably get this up Friday, so it's a day late. I apologize, not my end, but I am making up for it. I have a New York Giants video dropping Saturday, and where I make a case about do they make the playoffs, do they not, and I'm going to let you guys decide. But joining me is my father, Tony. Say hello to everyone, Tony.
Hello, everybody.
Now the NFC East is chock filled with great teams from last year. There was really no real bad team in this division last year, which is kind of rare to say. And I know people would say, well, Washington wasn't good, but they weren't bad. You couldn't sleepwalk through them. I mean, look, they're the team that beat the Eagles first. And we have stuff to talk about for all four teams really quickly. But the biggest news, and it works out because it's alphabetically, Commanders is first in the naming rights. I don't know for how long. But there's a new ownership group in Washington, which is going to probably change the outlook on this franchise as a whole. What do you see this season unfolding for them with new ownership in charge, kind of at the helm?
Well, first off, I'd say that, that's the biggest thing in the NFL that happened over the last couple of years, the fact that Dan Snyder is no more. Do we know how the ownership is going to work with the team? Not really. We can look at the fact that since Magic Johnson is a part of this ownership group, and he's a part of the ownership group for the Dodgers, one would think that they kind of know what they're doing a little bit. So,
and this ownership group also owns the Philadelphia 76ers, who have had playoff success in recent years and making it to the playoffs.
So you would think just by subtraction of Schneider, the team is going to be better, and the city's going to be better.
Yeah, well, even if they stay in Washington, I don't know what's going on with that whole stadium thing and all that.
Yeah, I had heard an article, and they had said that the city would not even entertain a new stadium until Schneider was out of there. So we'll have to see what happens moving forward.
So I don't think a stadium gets put up in Washington, D.C. I think they're going to kind of be on the outskirts, kind of like how San Francisco is kind of outside of San Francisco, if that makes sense. Just because I saw an article that came out recently that the Washington Wizards and Washington Capitals are also looking to get a new arena outside of the city of Washington. So I think that's the direction we go. But overall, they'll stay close by. And you can look at this Washington team. They are a very fascinating team because they have Coach Ron Rivera, who is, I still think, a very good coach. They brought in Eric Bieniemy to be the new offensive guru, mind whatever. You got Sam Howell, who showed promise last year, but he's still a major unknown. Jacoby Brissett, who did show some goodness while he was starting Cleveland last year. Where do you view this team at? Are they so bad that they're going to be in the Caleb Williams Drake May sweepstakes, or can they realistically contend for the playoffs this year?
I think they're too good to be in the Drake May, Caleb Williams, frenzy. But I don't know if they're going to be good enough to actually contend for a playoff spot. I like Sam Howell. It'll be interesting to see how well he does. I honestly think that they're going to try to see what they've got in him and use Jacoby as a backup and as a mentor. They've got pieces all over the board on the offense. They've got a pretty good defense as well. I just don't know if they're going to have enough to basically sway the scale to a playoff berth.
And this is, I have two more questions. If Sam Howell showed promise in possibly being the franchise quarterback and you missed the playoffs, would you consider that a successful season?
Absolutely. If he showed it, and if it's just a matter of you still need a couple of more pieces, probably on the back end of the defense, maybe, the offensive line. They just recently let go of a longtime Pro Bowler. So they do have a couple questions on the offensive line. But if Howell shows that he can be the guy, then I'd say moving forward, all they have to do is strengthen their team in general. I'm a firm believer that you do not need to have Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl. You can have solid QB play. You just have to be solid everywhere else as well.
And one last one. Did the Commanders bring in Ron Rivera's replacement, Eric Bieniemy?
I don't know about that, and the only reason why I'll say that is Bieniemy needed to get out of the shadow of Andy Reid if he ever wants to be a head coach. And that's not saying that Andy was holding him back, but unfortunately, Andy Reid coordinators on the offensive side have not fared very well. And so he needs to be able to show that his offense is effective before he can start getting chances at a head coaching position. So I think this was a lateral move, but whether it's there or somewhere else, if he is efficient, he'll be a head coach within the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yep. Well, now moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, and we're kind of going to stick in a little bit of the coaching realm. Was moving off Kellen Moore the right call for the Cowboys?
It might have been the right move, but the reason why they said it, what McCarthy had said about he wants to run the ball more in their off-season moves, I'd say that doesn't add up. Kellen Moore's offense actually ran the ball a pretty significant amount last year, but that was one of the things McCarthy said after that. He said he wanted to run the ball more. Well, you have an injured number one running back who you didn't really do anything to replace the loss of Ezekiel Elliott, who was fading in his career, but he was still something. So I don't see where they brought in the pieces to make that statement by McCarthy a true statement.
Do you think the firing of Kellen Moore was more McCarthy or more Jerry?
I think it was more McCarthy.
Really? I lean more Jerry.
I think it. Well, here's the thing. I think it was Jerry was probably either you need to fix this loss or you're done, and so you're gonna hold on to whatever you have so he can at least last another year by saying, well, he wasn't doing what I wanted him to do, and so we got rid of him, and then he's going to take over the play calling. From there, we'll see what happens.
See, I view it as Jerry want to get rid of Kellen Moore because, as you said, with what McCarthy said, didn't really add up. So that's why I feel like it was more Jerry's decision to move off him than McCarthy's. But we also look at this Cowboys team. They brought in, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, at the receiver position. Brandon Cooks.
Oh, Brandon Cooks. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Who is much younger than anyone would think.
Yes, we've had that conversation. That's for sure.
Do you think it was more important for Dallas to bring in a guy like Brandon Cooks instead of bringing in a running back with Tony Pollard's uncertainty as health, whatever? I saw he was doing good at training camp today, but he's still uncertain how well he will be back to form. But Brandon Cooks does bring you an opposite guy of CeeDee Lamb.
Well, to be quite honest, I think they needed both. They needed somebody on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb that can stretch the field and let Lamb work underneath against the defenses. But they also need a running back to complement Pollard so that they can run the ball and work. They're a play action pass team that right now I'm not so sure how effective the run game is to set up that play action pass.
And there was one position I did not think they replaced well, and I think it's a bigger issue for me personally than the running back. I didn't think they replaced the tight end position well. I don't think they got a guy in to replace Dalton Schultz's production.
Well, I think we're a little bit in disagreement about Schoonmaker. So
Schoonmaker.
I like him, so we'll see what happens there. Schultz was definitely a really good tight end, but if you think about it, over the last couple of years, Dallas has been pretty good at developing tight ends. So,
and now we'll flip to the defensive side of the ball. there wasn't really much that happened on the defense side of the ball. Am I crazy for saying that?
No, not really. If you think about it, free agent signings, they brought in a long snapper, they brought in Ronald Jones, and they brought in offensive lineman. They really didn't bring in any significant free agents. I mean, they did trade, for a DB, but
Stephon Gilmore.
exactly. But they didn't go out and do it. Now they brought in some defensive ends. They brought in a linebacker in the draft, but in all honesty, they didn't bring anything solid, and their defense was pretty good. The one thing you could say probably is they were a little bit undersized on the defensive line, and so the addition of Mozzie Smith could be a significant piece to that puzzle. But other than that, no, they didn't make a lot of moves. Yeah. And so, maybe they just felt that they're almost there. They only needed a couple of pieces. So we'll see.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the Cowboys draft, which we'll get into later, but I really did like the Mozzie Smith pick. He fits a need. He's in a division with Washington, who's going to want to run the ball, New York, who's going to want to run the ball, and Philadelphia, who is going to throw 50 running backs at you a game. They needed him. I think that's a great addition. You know me, I'm personally not high on trading assets for a over 30 cornerback. It kind of is like, to me, but we'll see how that plays out. Dan Quinn, as much as I don't think he's a head coach, I think he's done really good as defense coordinator there. And you can argue the Cowboys had the best addition by subtraction this past offseason, by getting rid of Brett Maher.
What? The Brett? Okay. You got me on that one.
How many kicks did he miss in the playoffs?
Yeah, he did not do very well in the playoffs, that's for sure.
But as I'm joking, I don't know. I feel like this is a Cowboys team that got a little bit worse than last year, personally. I still think they're a playoff team. We're going to get into that. And I will say this. Anybody who does not think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, because I just saw this morning by Chris Broussard. I woke up, I looked on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and I saw Chris Broussard say, the only way Dak Prescott's an elite quarterback is if he gets the Cowboys to a dynasty. If you truly believe that, stop watching football. Dak Prescott's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He's a top 10 quarterback. Did he have picks last year? Yeah, so does every great quarterback. It happens.
So when you say that you think they got worse, is yours based upon the loss of Schultz or the loss of the OC?
Okay, I'm a big Kellen Moore fan, and we'll get into that when we talk about the AFC West.
Okay.
But I don't like the running back position, as we've talked about heavily, because I don't know how Pollard's going to be bouncing back. And I'm a big Tony Pollard fan, bigger than you, and even I'm questioning that. The loss of Dalton Schultz, I'm not the biggest fan of. And I look at that defense, and I don't know if Stephon Gilmore is the right move. He has had production. He has not fallen off yet, but that's always just a little wary for me. But again, like I say, very little bit worse. That's why I look at the offense. Like I said, I like Schultz. Zeke, I wasn't the biggest fan of last year. If you listen to this, or as he would tell you, I wasn't Ben. But they should have a target a running back position. Dalvin Cook is still out there, and I did see he's meeting with the Jets today.
The Jets and then possibly the Patriots.
I don't know how much cap space the Cowboys have off the top of my head, but that is someone I would contact because I do think it would help out them a lot. But now we got to move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, and have the Eagles replenished enough depth to make another Super Bowl run?
To make the Super Bowl run, I believe they have. They replaced pieces with pieces. A lot. They got younger in some of the areas where some people would say, "Well, do they really need to lose?" Javon Hargrave. But he's aging, so they got younger there, and the NFC, as we've talked about, I don't think it's as weak as everybody says, but it's definitely not as strong as the AFC. So the fact that their offense is as prolific as it is, and their defense is still really strong, I believe they're still a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I was notably last year low on the Eagles, and they made me look like an idiot. So I'm going to be high on them. And DeAndre Swift, I want to ask you, what do you think about bringing him in as the running back, kind of replacing Miles Sanders?
Well, I think they're going to go by committee. I mean, they brought in Penny, they brought in Swift. Both of them have noted injury history, but both are ultra explosive when they're healthy. So I think they're going to limit, what they do or their carries per person, but ride the hot hand. And they still have Scott. They're still a stable of running backs. They're not a one piece, offense.
No, and you got Dallas Goedert, who is someone we saw play live in college, who is a monster. AJ Brown is Derrick Henry at wide receiver. That's the way he plays. You got Devonta Smith on the other side, who is proven no matter what your size is, as long as you have good technique, you're pretty solid. And their offensive line speaks for itself.
Yes, I completely agree.
And then you look at the defense side of the ball. Hargraves is a good player. I've been a fan of him since he was drafted to the Steelers. Loved watching him play there. Thought he was great in Philadelphia. But, and I'm a big Hargraves fan, if you can replace him with Jalen Carter, I think it's kind of worth it. Because Jalen Carter might end up much better than Hargraves. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to put that moniker on a rookie. Definitely as a prospect, he has everything that he needs to be there. Also, putting it together is where is where that's gonna be iffy. So,
they're pretty much the same team. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. There's not a whole bunch to talk about with their defense on the field. But off the field, on the other hand, that's where we can talk about it. They replaced both their coordinators, and they brought in Sean Desai from Seattle, and they promoted quarterback coach Brian Johnson to be the offense coordinator. I'm going to let you take Desai because I know how much you love him, so I'll let you handle him.
So it's interesting because in Seattle, Desai was just a secondary coach. He was not the defensive coordinator. That being said, the guy is awesome. When he was with Chicago, he had he did a really good job. He's a secondary guru. That's pretty much what he is. And then he works with the rest of his defense to kind of fill the spots. So I absolutely loved what he did there. And I'll say that, I mean, he had 1 year to work with Tariq Woolen. I guess it's now Reek Woolen, but he taught him a lot of technique, and he was in line for defensive rookie of the year. So that's just with 1 year of working with it. So I think they got a really good replacement for defensive coordinator, maybe even a little better than what they had.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask this real quick because we weren't high on this prospect overall in April. But how do you feel about Eli Ricks working with Sean Desai?
I think that it's just going to depend upon how everything works out. I mean, if they can find a happy median to work together, then definitely, it can be beneficial. But you never know until, you're actually in the fire if their schemes can fit.
Yep. Well, now it's time to talk about the offense side of the ball. My guy, Brian Johnson. I say my guy because I've been a fan of this guy for many years. Since 2018, when I was introduced to him as the quarterback coach at Florida. I'm a Gator fan. I love watching my Gators. He was a great quarterback coach there, working with Felipe Franks for Felipe's best season, and working with Kyle Trask. And Kyle Trask may not be the NFL quarterback that a lot of Gator fans want him to be, including me, but he got better every year in college. He read defenses very well. And he was brought into Philadelphia in 2021 to be the quarterback coach, and was there last year as well. Jalen Hurts made a substantial jump with Brian Johnson as his quarterback coach. Johnson's a very smart offensive mind. He's very good at developing quarterbacks. He also worked with quarterbacks such as Dak Prescott, if you know about him. And he was in college with Alex Smith at one point. So he kind of knows what a great quarterback looks like, and he's worked with Jalen Hurts. This will be his third year working with him. His offense play calling, that is to be determined, because his offense play calling at Florida, he really didn't have the full reins of it because it was still Dan Mullen's offense. This is going to be his first time calling plays since he was the OC at Houston Cougars in 2017. I like him a lot. I think he works very well with young quarterbacks. I think he develops them very well. I would not be shocked this guy's a head coach to be reckoned with in a couple seasons. And now we look at the New York Football Giants. They had a miraculous 2022 season. Can they repeat it, you think?
I don't know. I think they took a lot of teams by surprise last year. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to take as many teams by surprise this year. If you go back through and you look at their wins, I mean, everybody makes fun of Minnesota about how they had so many close wins. The Giants had a lot of close wins as well, to where they actually had to come back and win. And I just don't know if they're going to have the ability to do that again. They do have some more weapons on offense this year, and that's going to help. I think the addition of Darren Waller can be big, but I'm still not sold on Danny Dimes, as you like to call him. And so I just don't know if they've got enough to get into the playoffs again.
They're so hard because we're getting into it. I'm going to rave about their draft. I'm going to rave about their coaching staff. I really like this team, but it feels like I have to see it repeat itself before I can go all in on them being good again this year. Saquon Barkley, getting him back under contract for just a season, and I'm assuming he's probably most likely gone after this year. That's huge. He'll be playing for a contract, so he won't slack. You have Daniel Jones, who you're hoping takes another step under Brian Daboll. And you got a young defense with a lot of talent. Dexter Lawrence has been phenomenal for them. Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm very high on. And I think if you listen to April, I love me some Deontay Banks. And you look at the offense side, as you said, Darren Waller, he brings on the offense. He's a versatile threat at the tight end position. The receiving room after him, it just isn't as good. There's some guys. You got Wan'Dale Robinson. They drafted Jalen Hyatt. There are some guys there, but it's just a big question mark at the receiver room. The only position I really feel certain saying it is ready to be called one of the best would probably be their offensive line. So I thought I had a great improvement last year. I think the addition of John Michael Schmitz in this draft is going to help boost them significantly in the offensive line.
Yes, I would agree with that. When we talk about their offensive weapons, they brought in a lot of wide receivers in free agency. They brought in Jamison Crowder. They brought in Tommy Sweeney, tight end from the Bills. Waller, which we already spoke about. They brought in Paris Campbell from the Colts. So they brought in a lot of and Jeff Smith from the Jets, excuse me. But they're all just guys. They're not the guy. And so, I just worry that they don't have enough on the outside to be able to hold up to teams when they're putting up points.
You know what their receiver room feels like? The Bills before they got Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. And they were just there. And as soon as they got Diggs, then they became something.
Yeah. That's going to wrap us up with kind of talking about them overall. Now it's time to get in some rankings. Upset some people, as you saw at the Lions podcast. Lions fans, hi. Please don't put my head on a pike. We got coaching staffs, and I'm ready to upset some people. My last place coaching staff, I had the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not a fan of their offensive staff. Their defense staff, I have nothing bad to say. I really do not like the offense staff. And when I look at everyone else's coaching staff in the division, and I don't really have anything really negative to say about a certain side of the ball for either staff, It's going to leave the Cowboys in last place.
I would agree with that. I have them in last place as well. And I like their defensive coaching staff, but their offensive coaching staff, as far as I'm concerned, is just not as good as the rest of the division.
Third place, I have the Washington Commanders. I like their coaching staff. Ron Rivera, I've been a big fan for many years. The defensive staff's very good. And the only reason I have them at 3, and I know a lot of people would have them higher because of Eric Bieniemy, he's an unknown to me still because I don't know how much it was Andy Reid and how much of it was him. And Pat Mahomes, to be fair, as well.
So here's where you and I are going to go off the rails, and here's where I'm going to start getting hate mail. I'm going to put the Eagles at 3rd right now. And the reason why is because they lost 2 coordinators. I love Desai. Does that mean that he's going to be a great defensive coordinator? No, it doesn't. I think he'll be a great defensive coordinator, but just like you said, he's unproven. And also on the offensive side, Johnson is unproven. And so you have so many unknowns with that staff that went from honestly, last year you would have to have considered the Eagles coaching staff the best in that division. And with losing the coordinators that they lost, because remember, they also lost other coaches that went with the coordinators. So you have a lot of displaced coaching staff there. And so I can't put them any higher than 3, and the only reason why they're 3 is because the head coach just won a he was in the Super Bowl and could have won it, but for bad special teams play.
Eagles fans, I'm on your side, just to let you know. Number 2, I have the New York Giants. I like their offense and defensive staff. I think Kafka is probably going to be getting more head coaching opportunities. Just wasn't a great class to kind of leave to be a head coach, in my opinion, this past cycle. And Dable, as a head coach, kind of spoke volumes. You saw previous coaches there with that same roster. He came in there and got them to the playoffs.
I would agree. They're my second rated in that division as well.
Oh, wow. You're really trying to upset Eagles fans. Number 1, Eagles. I love Brian Johnson. I love Sean Desai. Please don't hurt me, Philadelphia.
And I would say the Commanders. I think that Riverboat Ron is amazing. Their defensive coordinator, their defensive side, they know what they're doing. Former NFL head coaching experience, and they replaced one coordinator. They did not replace multiple coordinators, and so I'm going to have to say that it's going to go with the Commanders. And you're not going to have Dan Schneider interfering.
Draft class ranks, and I'm just making Eagles fans happy with me. Last place, the Dallas Cowboys. I liked Mozzie. That's really kind of the end of my. I didn't mind Overshown. I wasn't as high on him as other people were, but like the Cowboys, I just didn't care for their class overall. It was one.
I liked some of their picks, but I do have them as the 4th rated draft class as well. So, I like Deuce Vaughn. I think that he can be something, but he's definitely not going to be an every down back. So their replacements aren't what they needed to be.
No, it was a very Cowboys-esque draft, if that makes sense. Number 3, I had the Commanders. They could maybe be higher. Probably not, because I like the other 2 classes better. Emmanuel Forbes in the first round. Are you kidding me? That I just disagreed with. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It nearly wound them up in last place, because I am not high on a lot of teams' first-round picks. That might be the first-round pick I hated the most. Now, not saying Forbes can't be good. He can play the ball very well. He's good at getting interceptions. The problem is, a lot of those interceptions were thrown behind the receiver. I didn't care for him, and I just disagree with the pick. Kind of souring me on a lot of the other class, because I didn't think Washington had a bad class overall. I thought they brought in some talent. Blanking on the one guy I really liked. It was their offensive lineman from Arkansas.
Oh, Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name.
Ricky Stromberg.
I liked him. I thought he was a good addition. I think he kind of fits the offense line that the Chiefs would draft, which having Eric Bieniemy in, I think only boosts that for the future. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Commanders as well, for the same reasons. I just thought, honestly, for me, Forbes just wasn't he wasn't what they should have done, especially with some of the players that were on the board. I didn't mind Jartavius Martin, and Ricky Stromberg he's got moxie, is what I would say about him. Is everybody that you listen to when they talk about him, when you see him play, he's just a fighter, which and then they KJ Henry, the edge out of Clemson. They get him in the 5th round. He's a 5th round pick. I think
he's rotational guy. I liked him, but he was a rotational guy.
Yeah, you really liked Chris Rodriguez, the running back from Kentucky.
Just in that room, there's so many guys in that room. I don't know how much playing time he'll get.
Oh, definitely.
Number 2 here's where we're gonna have the disagreement. I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Jalen Carter a lot, and I'm not talking about his off-field issues. I don't know enough about that. As a football player, I thought he was very talented. I wasn't as high on Nolan Smith. Wasn't as high on Eli Ricks. I thought Jalen Carter pick was so great that I had to put them at 2. The rest of the draft, I kind of was like, we'll see. I trust Eagles coach staff. I trust Howie Roseman and his development and scouting acumen. I just didn't care for it as a whole.
So I have the Giants 3.
2.
And I'm sorry, 2. And so what I would say is I like Banks. I love John Michael Schmitz. The rest of their guys, Jalen Hyatt, not a fan of. Eric Gray, decent running back. But the rest of their I don't want to say they're guys because they're obviously drafted into the NFL. But if you wanna go there, Banks, Schmitz, and even if you want to throw Hyatt in, and you compare it to Philly, where you have Carter, Nolan Smith, I liked Tyler Steen. I loved Sidney Brown. It wasn't Ricks, by the way. It was Keely Ringo.
Ricks is a different corner in the NFL.
That's okay.
Wow, that's super. I apologize, Keely Ringo. Eli Ricks was a former Eagles cornerback. Then now I think of it, went to New England and was the safety there. I apologize, Keely, and I apologize, Eagles fans.
And then I love Moro Ojomo in the 7th. I think that he is going to be a sneaky good pick. And, everything that we've heard about him is he's just a textbook run defender. So in that division where teams are going to want to run, to have a backup that's what he does, is just stops the run. I mean, hands down, I just think that they walked away with the draft in this division.
So to get back, I was not a Tyler Steen fan. I didn't care for him. And the reason why I chose the Giants is because I think Deonte Banks is a day 1 starting corner that's going to have an impact in the NFL. He was someone I very much wanted my team to take with the Steelers. They did not. I was a little upset, but I think he's very talented. John Michael Schmitz is going to be a day 1 starter as well at the center position. He's going to bring that offensive line stability along with Andrew Thomas for many years to come. And I'm not as high on Jalen Hyatt as many other people. I like him a little bit more than you. I think he's got a certain weapon that's very useful.
Speed.
Yeah, and it's very useful when used properly. I liked Eric Gray. I thought he was a good running back coming out of almost at Clemson, Oklahoma. Trey Hawkins III, I liked him out of Old Dominion. Jordan Riley, I thought was interesting last year when I watched him at Oregon. I thought he did decent against the Georgia offensive line compared to a lot of other people last year. Not saying they stopped them. Georgia ran all over them. But Georgia kind of ran over everybody. And Gravarius Owens out of Houston, I didn't watch enough of him to make my opinion. But I'm going to compare the top 3 picks to the top 3 Eagles. The top 3 Giants picks were Deonte Banks, John Michael Schmitz, Jalen Hyatt. I look at Banks versus Carter. That's Carter. Carter was the best player as a football player in this draft. I don't know the off-the-field issues. I'm going to keep on saying that. Nolan Smith or John Michael Schmitz, I was not a Nolan Smith fan. The only spot I felt comfortable with him going round 1 was the Eagles at pick 30. Called that a while ago. Turned out to be right. But I just didn't care for him as a player. I thought he was very, very overrated due to his natural athleticism. And I think John Michael Schmitz is a better player than Nolan Smith. And third pick for the Eagles was Tyler Steen, correct?
Yes.
Jalen Hyatt. Not high on either. I liked Hyatt more. I did not care for Alabama's offensive line last year. I did not care for Tyler Steen at Miami. I did not care for him at Alabama. The Eagles are a good development staff. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but overall I was not a fan of that pick.
Well, there you have it. You said you were on the Eagles side, and then you went with the Giants.
Hey. I've been on the Eagles side for the majority of this. I love Brian Johnson, okay? And I apparently goofed up their 5th-round cornerback's name, Kaylee Ringo, who I thought the Steelers were going to pick, and I keep on blanking on his name. Again, I apologize for that. I'm not going to live that down. Offense Rookie of the Year. Jalen Hyatt for me. Now, I chose Hyatt because, first of all, this offensive class was not that good. And when I mean not that good, there weren't skilled positions that you could draft and make the argument for them to win Offense Rookie of the Year. And
you're talking, just to clarify, you're talking in the NFC East.
NFC East, yes. I meant this. This is NFC East 100%. And I am not against picking an offensive lineman to win Offense Rookie of the Year for a division or overall. I thought Ikem Ekwonu should have won it last year. They have to be transcendent level talent for me to pick them, and I love Schmitz. I couldn't pick him here, so I have to go Jalen Hyatt, who I do think will bring something to the Giants offense. He is very fast, as I said. They can use him all over the place, and he will ultimately be very useful to hopefully get Danny Dimes' deep ball going, which has been non-existent in his NFL career. Who was your offense Rookie of the Year?
John Michael Schmitz. And for your reasons, when you talked about to pick an offensive lineman, he has to have an impact, a dramatic impact on the game. I agree with you. There were not a lot of rookies in this division, to where you would say, "Oh, splash." I'm not high on Hyatt, but John Michael Schmitz is going to make waves in that offensive line, and he's going to make holes. And all of the players that are playing behind him are going to, have better years because of it. So, yeah, he's mine.
So, now we go to Defensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah, remember, Eagles fans, I'm sorry. I love Jalen Carter, but I don't know how much he's going to play year one. They kind of protect Jordan Davis a bit. That's why I'm taking Deonte Banks, and I love Banks a lot. I had him as, I believe it was my number 2 rated cornerback, right behind Devon Witherspoon off the top of my head. I thought he was very great. I thought he was very talented. He has the speed to keep up the NFL players, and he will be tested. If he can play good against the receivers in this division, that's a big sign for the future of their Giants' number 1 cornerback.
I'm going with Nolan Smith. You're not a huge fan of him, and I would venture to say that more of that is because he wasn't the best pass rusher, for his team. However, he was an amazing run stopper. I think all told, they're going to use him. He's going to learn from Reddick, and I think he is going to take the league by storm because, it always seems like the players, when they're coming out from Georgia, when they come out of that area, they always struggle.
Walker.
You don't see them to their full potential while they're in Georgia. I think we're going to see him with his full potential this year.
Yeah, as I said, not the biggest Nolan Smith fan, but that's not here or there. And Eagles fans, back to get on your good side. My best offseason addition is Sean Desai. I think he's a great defensive mind. I think he's going to come in there. I think he is an improvement at defensive coordinator than Gannon, correct?
I would like to say that. In my opinion, he has every opportunity and chance to be. We just can't say that he is because he's unproven.
Yeah, I like him. I think he'll be great this year. I think he's going to come up with some blitz packages, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was a head coach somewhere else next year. And here's the thing. He is coming in there with a loaded defense. There's no doubt about it. There is not a whole bunch you have to do to be great with that defense besides just put them in the right spots. And I think Sean Desai can do that very well.
I would say you're right there, but like I said, it's just, just like a rookie, you don't want to give him too much credit. My best offseason ad has to be Josh Harris and Magic Johnson and the rest of the rest of the ownership for the Commanders, just because it's a breath of fresh air. That dark cloud is not hanging over that team anymore. So you can only take a situation like that for so long, and I think that you're going to see a better team on the field because of it.
So here's a question: if everything goes horrible for Washington, everything, like players just get hurt or whatever, and they finish with the first overall pick, are they the ultimate winners of the season? Still just getting rid of Dan Snyder ultimately?
Yeah.
I was just curious what you would say with that, because I know how you are yucky with when it comes to losing. But Coach of the Year, it's kind of hard for me not to pick him, Brian Daboll. I thought he did wonders with a subpar team last year. I think he's coming in. I think this Giants team is a bit better than last year, but as you said, they had a lot of close games. They're not going to go everyone's way. I think he's got the talent, and if he can continue working with Daniel Jones, improving him, which he kind of needs to after that contract, the team's on the right foot.
I'm gonna, for some reason I missed the fact that we were doing the Coach of the Year. I don't know why I missed that, but I'm gonna stick with Nick Sirianni here, and the reason why is, he's going to have to be more of the head coach this year, not rely on his coordinators as much, help provide leadership and help them out. So if they get to the same place they did last year with 2 new coordinators, it's because of his leadership as well. So, and I think that they'll pretty much be in the same place as they were last year. So.
Okay, now it's time for MVP of the division, and I think it's only fair if you go first, because what I'm about to say is not going to be a consensus pick, but I'm going to have to take my time to explain it.
For Player of the Year in this division?
MVP. Who's the most valuable player in this division?
Micah Parsons. Hands down. He is the top, non-quarterback, he is the top 1 or 2 players as far as I'm concerned in the league right now. A lot can be said for TJ Watt and Nick Bosa. So between those 3, I would say
Aaron Donald.
He has tormented me for a long time, but I just don't think that he's at the level of these guys anymore for what he means to the team.
Okay, I'm clipping this, everyone. I'm going to be playing this a lot. I'm going to get this on my soundboard, and when Aaron Donald gets 5 sacks against Geno Smith against the Seahawks, because we all know it's going to happen now, I'm playing that clip. So, my MVP. I told you this a couple weeks ago that I made up my mind on this, and I don't know if you remember it. I looked at who is the heart of a team, who is the guy, who is kind of the epicenter of that team. What is it? And I landed on Jason Kelce. Now, I know what I had to say. It said transcendent talent. Jason Kelce might be the best center I've ever seen in my life. In my lifetime as a sportsman, I have been alive since 2001. I've been watching sports since 2005, I would say. 2004, 2005, one of those years. I don't think I've seen a center be as dominant as Jason Kelce for as long. I don't think I've seen him kind of be the identity of a team. He was crucial for that Super Bowl run when they beat the Oh my God, how am I blanking on who they beat? The Patriots. They beat the Patriots. But you look at these past couple years, the offensive line has been great. It's always been great with Jason Kelce there. He's the one who identifies stuff. He's the one who goes with Jalen Hurts and does all that stuff. You can't have a great quarterback without a great center, as we always seen throughout time. And Kelce has always been the great guy. Whenever the Eagles have been good, it's been because Jason Kelce's been healthy. He's dominant in the run game, opening up spaces. He's great in the screen game. He's great in pass pro. He does everything for that Eagles offense and opens up the entire world for them.
That was a shocker. Are you sure this isn't just because you love his podcast?
I actually haven't listened to his podcast since, like, last season. And it is a good podcast, don't get me wrong. I do like him and Travis Kelce. The brothers are hilarious, but I think he's that dynamic of a player that if he were to go down with an injury, I don't think the Eagles would be the same on offense. I think he'd be a bigger loss to Jalen Hurts, honestly.
I don't know. They've got a lot of depth. I think they'd be okay. Would it be the same? No, it wouldn't be the same. But their offensive line is still so good that they can get through it. Whereas if you just removed Micah Parsons from that defense, it's hands down.
That pass rush is not the same.
No, the whole defense isn't the same.
No, but we'll find out. And listen, I knew this wasn't going to be the most popular pick, but I made up my mind, and I considered other players, don't get me wrong, even up to, because we were originally going to record Tuesday night and like Monday night and Tuesday morning. I was debating if I was going to stick with Jason Kelce, and I decided, stick with your guy here. If you're going to be wrong, go down with the guy you chose. Don't flip-flop and go with a different guy just so you can seem smarter. Go with your instinct. And I went with my instinct.
I respect it because you're not an offensive lineman lover. It's just like you're not a running back lover. You're a wide receiver. So the fact that you're sticking with this, I can respect it. I just disagree with it.
Yep.
So
now it's time to get into playoff standings, and I'm just going to reveal mine all at once. Last place, the Commanders. Third place, the Giants. Second place, the Cowboys. First place, the Eagles. I've made my points throughout this entire podcast. Eagles, I still think, are the best team. Cowboys, even though I do think they are slightly worse than last year, I still think they're a playoff team with Dak Prescott. Giants, they got lucky last year, and I don't know how much of it is repeatable, even though I do think they are an improved team. I do think they will be a challenge to beat. I don't know if they'll be over 500 necessarily. And the Commanders, there's just uncertainty at the most important position on the field for me to say if they're going to be better than fourth place.
Well, we have a slight disagreement. Of course, I believe the Eagles are going to win the division, and I believe Dallas is coming in second. And then I'm picking the Commanders to come in third, and the Giants will come in fourth.
So, how many playoff teams do you have in this division?
2. The Eagles and the Cowboys.
Exactly the same. And I will probably say this, odds are the Eagles will probably be the 1 seed.
I would venture to say that you're probably right.
It's either them or it's another team we're going to get into in a couple weeks from now in the Old West.
Yeah, don't even go there.
Yep. Well, next week we'll be talking about the NFC South, and if you thought we had disagreements here, just wait till we talk about the Saints.
And the rest of the division.
Yeah, but the Saints are going to be the divisive one.
Oh, yeah. Divisive. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But that's going to wrap us up. I hope you all enjoyed. Training camp started, was it yesterday or today it really started?
Yesterday.
Well, it started July 26th. It's recording July 27th. And this will be uploaded July 28th. Yeah, 3 days in a row with that. But whatever. Hope you guys all have fun. Hall of Fame game is next week. We'll have the NFC South out before the Hall of Fame game. Hope you all enjoy and be just happy that football's back, everybody.